Good morning, everybody. I don't know why, but I am really looking forward to this message today. I don't know why more than others, but today I'm really looking forward to this. And we are talking about this series, The Net Works. And as I've said before, I just want to clarify, this series is about what I believe and what so many of us believe the church ought to be. This is what I believe the church really is, what God's network of people in this world really is. And it is a play on words. Of course, the net, God's net, He said He would make us fishers of men or catchers of people. But it's also a network of people, people who have laid their lives down and who have said, Lord, I'm yours, my life is yours. Do with me as you please. Take the things out of my life that you want to take out, and put the things in that you want to put in. Lead me in the direction that you want me to go. Those people make up, I'm not talking about just churchgoers, but I'm talking about those people who have made this decision to say, Lord, yes, I will follow you. These are the people who have laid down their lives, and they make up this network of people, and of course, God's net works. This week, the title of this week's message is The Net Rescues. The Net Rescues. About 3 weeks ago, I got a call from a friend of mine, and she said, we are building a house on the lake, and I would like for you to take a look at the plans. She sent me the plans. I took a look at the plans because when I'm not up here doing this on Sunday, I build houses for a living. So that's what I do. She called me and she said, I want to send you the plans to our lake house, and I want you to look at them, and then I want you to take a look at our lot. So I took a look at the plans. I got a good understanding, had a good understanding of what it was they wanted to build on this particular lot, but I hadn't seen the lot yet. And along about this time, somewhere in all of this conversation with her, I bought a new truck. It's not brand new. But it's new to me. It's a big white. I like white trucks for whatever reason. The guys that work for me, they said, "Another white truck?" Yes, I like white trucks. So brand new to me, white truck, not a scratch on it. And I said when I was making the deal with the car salesman guy, who, by the way, is not a bad guy. Not all car salesmen are bad. This guy said, "Well, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want to pay? And, is there anything you want me to do to the truck?" And I said, yes, I would love for you to put new tires on it. It had good tires already, good tread. I wanted new tires. So he put new tires on the truck. And I drove it off that day, and I was so proud of myself. I was just so glad, that I had a new truck. And no pride or anything involved in that whatsoever. But I drove the truck off, and I was like, yeah, look at me in my new Toyota Tundra. So I drove it off, and one of the first things I did was I went to take a look at this lot. So I go to Scottsboro. It's on Lake Guntersville in Scottsboro, and I go to Scottsboro, and I was talking to a friend of mine on the phone. Lost phone reception. Last 10 miles of my drive, no phone reception. I kept looking, no service. I get to the lot, and it's a very narrow road. There was no shoulder that I could pull off on and park. And I get to the lot, and I look at the driveway, and it's a gravel driveway, and it just goes straight down, and it goes a long way. It's a long way from there to the water. And I couldn't see the end of the drive because it went down through the trees and then it curved around to the left. And I said to myself, I'm not taking my new truck down that road. I'm not taking my truck down there. and get it all dirty, and I'm not sure I can get back up. So, but I'm thinking, where can I park my truck? I don't want to leave it up here. Somebody might hit my new truck in the road, right? So I'm not going to leave it in the road. So I called the real estate agent whose name was still on the sign. The sign was still in the yard. I called him, and I said, hey, I'm here at this lot. So-and-so wanted me to come take a look at the lot. I'm just wondering about this driveway. If I go down this driveway, can I get back up? And he said, oh, yeah. He says, I've been down there many times. I have a Toyota 4Runner, and he says, I've been down there many times. I've never had any trouble getting back up. And I said, well, what about, is there a place to turn around down there? I can't see the bottom. And he said, oh, yeah, there's a place to turn around down there. No problem. So on this guy's word, I'm not going to call his name because I don't like him very much. I started down the driveway, and immediately I had this feeling in my gut like, oh no, there's no way. There's no way I'm getting back up this place. The gravel was that thick. It was loose. And I go down, 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 thinking all along, should I stop? Should I stop? No. There's a place to turn around down there. And if I had been really smart, I would just stopped and got out and went down there and taken a look like a normal person with average intelligence would have done. But I didn't. I don't have average intelligence. I just took my truck all the way down to find that turnaround place, and I got down to the end, and it turned right at the end, and it just stopped. Trees all the way around. There's no place to turn around. The only thing I could do was back up. So I started backing up, and what happened is I just started sinking down. So immediately I called Lene. This was about 5:45. I called Lene and I said, because this is the miracle of it, okay? For 10 miles I had no cell service, and I got down to the bottom of this hill and I looked at my phone expecting there not to be any service, and there was 3 bars. Hallelujah. I'm not going to be stranded overnight down here in this place. So I called Lene and I told her about it. I said, I'm just going to go ahead and call the tow truck to come get me. So while I called the insurance company, they won't pay because it's too far off the road. And I called the tow truck company, and the tow truck company came, and 30 minutes later, this is like 6:15, somewhere along there, and he takes one look and he said, "Is that your truck way down there?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "I'm going to get you out." He said, "I'm going to get you out." He said, "I think I can piece together enough chain and enough cable to reach that far." I mean, I'm talking, it was like 300 yards down. This was a long way, okay? So he says, "All right, let's start with the cable." So he pulls the cable out as far as it'll go, and I mean, I'm looking at that cable. I'm saying, "You think you got enough stuff in your truck to get from here way down there?" He said, "Well, just give me some time." So he takes out another cable behind the seat and he hooks on and he strings that out. We're only halfway down the hill by now. Then he takes every chain that he's got on his truck and he hooks all of those chains together, and he gets it all the way down, almost there, but we're still like 50 feet short. So then he pulls out some straps and he starts tying them together and he starts wrapping them. And I'm thinking, man, this guy, thank God that I got a hold of this guy, not like a normal person who would just say, "You're hosed. I'll take you to the service station and let you call your wife." No. So he never quit. So we got down, he got all the straps hooked together, and we get down to the bottom, and we are like 4 inches from my being able to hook onto the truck. So I said, I'm going to get this truck back 4 inches. So I got in and I started rocking it back and forth, and I was able to pull it back, get it back like 4 inches, and he hooked it on. And so I was secured, I thought. And so he started pulling me. And by this time it's dark. He started pulling me, and I'm thinking we're going to get somewhere, and then bam, something breaks. He runs down there, and listen, this guy ran up and down that steep hill probably 20 different times that night. It was unbelievable the shape this guy was in. Up and down, running up and down, up and down, up and down. Every time he would pull me, I'd get 5 feet, and then bam, something would break. And then Lene called me. She said, "Are you out?" I said, "Well, it's been about an hour, hour and a half, and we've gone like 20 feet." And so he started pulling me again. And I looked back. I got my windows open. I got my, I'm looking out the back, trying to see, make sure we don't hit a tree. And then I get pulled off, and I am like 6 inches from a tree, and I start yelling. I realize, you fool, he can't hear you. He's like a half a mile away. He can't hear you. So I started laying on the horn. He stopped, and I was like this far from hitting the tree. So he comes down there, and I said, let's take that and let's wrap it around this tree over here and just jerk me back onto the road this way. And so just after all of this, doing that, pulling me back on the road, pulling his wrecker back down the street, restringing the cables so that it went through the trees and pulling me this way and then pulling me that way. And then finally we got up to the top. And about halfway up, I had heard this sound, which I knew exactly what it was whenever I heard it. And it's this. Psh! My brand new tire. My brand new tire. And by the time we got to the top, by the time he got me to the top of that hill, to the pavement, my tire was just a little piece of rubber that was wrapped around the wheel. And I thought I was going to buy a new wheel because it was so bad. I've got pictures of it. It's so bad. And so we get up to the top of the hill, and he says, "Hey, man, don't worry about it. It's 9:45 by this time." And so he says, I'm gonna stay with you, man. We're gonna get you out of here. So he says, "You grab your tire tool. I got a jack on my truck." So he gets a jack. He starts jacking that truck up. I go and I look up under my seat where the jack should be. There's no jack. There's no tire tool. There's nothing. And the tire is securely, fitted up underneath the back of the truck. And you have to have that tool that sticks through the bumper, and you gotta wind that thing, and the tire comes down. But guess what? I don't have one. So I had my tool bag that I always carry in the back of my truck. I dumped my tools out, and I started MacGyvering everything that I could imagine together. And I took my drill, and I had a bar clamp back there, and I took my bar clamp apart, and then I took my crescent wrenches, and I taped them to the bar clamp, and all this stuff. And finally, I stuck it through there without one single hope that this is going to work. I had no hope that this was going to work. I thought, well, we're just going to leave this piece of junk sitting right here, and I'm going to come back tomorrow with a tire tool after I go by and talk to that car salesman who sold me a car without a tire tool in it. And so I stuck all this stuff that I had taped together through the hole, and the guy said, "It's in there. It fits." And so I started with the other crescent wrench. I started turning. He said, "It's coming down." I said, "It is?" He said, "Yeah, it's coming down." Coming down. He got the tire, and then we couldn't get the tire off. He was standing up on top of the lug wrench, and he was jumping up and down, and it would not come loose. So I said, "All right, you pull up. I'm heavier than you. You pull up on that, and I'm going to jump on this side." And between him pulling and me jumping up and down, we finally cracked those lugs loose, and we finally got that spare tire on there. And 10:30 at night, I pull out of there, and I was rescued. Woo! This is what rescue feels like. It feels like, I don't even know what to say to you. I don't even know what to say. You have spent 5 hours with me. You've charged me the minimum amount. You have spent all this time with me, and you rescued me. Your straps are all broken into pieces, and your poor wife has been out here for 5 hours too, and we're just all so worn out, and you have run up and down that hill so many times. I don't even know what to do to thank you. And I always, in my wallet, I always keep a $100 bill in case of emergency. Don't any of you come and rob me see me in a dark alley. But I had this $100 bill, but Lene had asked me earlier that day, hey, do you have any cash on you? I really need some cash. And I'd just given her my $100 bill, and I wanted to give him that $100 so bad, but I had no cash on me. So I asked him, I said, would you be interested in a job? And he said, I might be. I'm interviewing him tomorrow for a job to come to work for us. That's a good man that will rescue. What rescue feels like. There are no words. There are no words. Thank you doesn't cut it, y'all, when you get rescued. I've been rescued many times. I was rescued on the Ocoee River one time. I think I may have told you all about that. I was rescued the other night in that gravel pit, and I know what it's like to be rescued. Jesus rescued me when I had zero hope, when I was going down fast. Jesus sent someone to rescue. We are rescuers. This is what the Apostle Paul said. He said, I have become all things to all people so that by all possible means I might save some. Have you ever heard anybody say this, that I might save some? We don't say that. We say Jesus saves. We take ourselves out of the equation. Let me tell you something. God has set this thing up. It's not that God couldn't save us. If he wanted to save us without any human intervention, he could do that. But that's not his plan. His plan is that he has involved us in this intricate plan. He has woven humanity through his plan that salvation and catching people and bringing people to Jesus involves other people. It involves us. It involves the net. And the net rescues, and because the net rescues, we rescue. Okay, this is what Jesus came to rescue us from, sin and hell. That's pretty simplistic, okay? He came to rescue us from sin and hell. You probably knew that. But he came to rescue us from a lot of other things, but they all come under these two headings, sin and hell. And actually, hell probably comes under this heading of sin. He rescued us from sin and hell, but there are a lot of people. And one of the reasons that the church in the United States of America is failing today is because a lot of people think that he just came to rescue us from hell. That's what they think. They don't understand that he came to rescue us from sin. They think that's what grace is for. Grace is for sin. Jesus came to rescue us from hell, and he gave us gave us grace to cover up sin. But he came to rescue us from sin and hell. Before Jesus came along, we didn't know too much about hell. But when Jesus came along, he started talking about hell. All right? These are the words that Jesus used for hell. He used Hades and he used Gehenna. Let's talk about Hades. Jesus told this story. It's probably the most in-depth story in the Bible about hell. And this is what he said. If you don't think there is a hell, there is a hell. I don't like to think about it. I really don't. I don't want anybody to go there. I don't want to think about it. And honestly, I don't know much about it. This is about all I know about it, what Jesus says in this passage. He says, there was a rich man who was dressed in purple. That's what the high priest dressed in. That's what the rich people dressed in, purple. And he said he was dressed in purple and fine linen, the finest clothes that money can buy. This rich man was dressed in the finest clothes money could buy. And he was dressed in purple, fine linen, and lived in luxury every day. At his gate was laid a beggar named Lazarus, covered with sores. Now, this guy, this rich man, he had already broken one of the commandments. One of the commandments, I think it's 4, says, you shall work 6 days. You shall labor 6 days, and on the 7th day you shall rest. This man was not laboring 6 days. He was lavishing himself in luxury every day. And every day, when he went out of his gate and when he came back in, he saw this beggar, this guy covered with sores. And longing to eat what fell from the rich man's table, even the dogs came and licked his sores. Listen, this guy couldn't even beat the dogs away. He was so sick and he was so weak. and he longed to eat what fell from the rich man's table. The custom was, there were lots of customs back then, and one of the customs was that rich people, whenever they came to the table, they would wash their hands, but they would dry the dirt and the dust and everything off on the bread. And then they would discard that bread. It was like a paper towel to us, or a towel. And that was what fell from the master's table. And that's what this guy longed to eat. Even the dogs came and licked his sores. The time came when the beggar died, and the angels carried him to Abraham's side. The rich man also died and was buried. See the difference between those two things? The beggar dies, and he is carried by the angels to Abraham's side. The rich man dies, and he's buried. The wages of sin is death. In Hades, Jesus says, this is hell in the afterlife. When Jesus said Hades, to whoever he was talking to that day, whoever heard this story, when Jesus said Hades, nobody really knew what he was talking about. It was a mysterious thing. It was something that came after this life, that nobody had ever been there. Nobody knew what it looked like. They didn't know what it sounded like. They didn't know what it smelled like. They had not sensed it. They had not experienced it. They had no idea what Hades was about. So Jesus is telling them about Hades. This is the hell that comes in afterlife. In Hades, where he was in torment, he looked up and saw Abraham far away with Lazarus by his side. So he called to him, "Father Abraham, have pity on me and send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, because I am in agony in this fire." Wow. But Abraham replied, "Son, remember that in your lifetime you received your good things, while Lazarus received bad things. But now he is comforted here, and you are in agony. And besides all this, between us and you, a great chasm has been set in place, so that those who want to go from here to you cannot, nor can anyone cross over from there to us." So this is a story that Jesus told about Hades. I want you to notice one thing about this story. It was not what the rich man did to the beggar. It's not what he did to him. It's what he did not do for him. He walked past him. It was okay with him that beggar was at his gate every day. It was okay with him. He was okay with that. Day after day after day. Didn't bother him. You know what? When I read this story, you know what I thought about? I thought about how okay I am with passing those people with signs on Governor's Drive whenever I drive past there. I'm thinking about the Netflix program that I'm going to watch when I get home from work, and they're standing out there holding the sign. And I think about, it's not that I think that I can do anything special for them, give them any amount of money, get out of my car right then and do something for them. It's my attitude. A lot of us who are conservative in our political views, and I'm pretty conservative in my political views, but a lot of us who are conservative, we would say to that guy, "Get a job. You know, this is a great country. Get a job. Go help yourself." We have no idea what that person's been through. We have no idea what mental state or emotional state they're in. We have no idea. How can we judge that person? God's going to judge us with that same standard. So, I'm just saying that it's this attitude of being okay as we get in our fine cars and we drive to our fine homes and we watch our fine 60-inch television, and we do all that. It's those things without having a heart for those who need help. And Jesus made it clear. He said, "No, nobody can be saved Without my Father, but with my Father, all things are possible. When he's talking about the rich man, we're all rich. We're all rich. The question that we need to ask is, do we have a heart for the beggar? Do we have a heart for the poor? Do we have the heart for the one who is addicted? Do we have a heart for the one who has mental problems? Do we have a heart for the one who is so bound by sin, so bound up and enslaved by whatever sin it is that they deal with? Do we have a heart for those people? Let's talk about Gehenna. Gehenna. Gehenna was the other word that Jesus used for hell, and he used it almost exclusively. I mean, there are maybe 2-3 times that Jesus used Hades, but he's always talking about Gehenna. Let me tell you about Gehenna. When Jesus said the word Gehenna, and just understand that when Jesus was preaching, he didn't say, "You're in danger of hell." He used these two words, Hades and Gehenna. And so when he said the word Gehenna, every person in that crowd had been there. Every person in that crowd knew what it smelled like. They knew what it sounded like. They knew what it looked like. They knew what it felt like. They knew the fear that would grip you when you went to this place, because Gehenna is in Jerusalem. It's a valley just on the outskirts of Jerusalem. 600 or 700 years before Jesus was born, there were some kings of Judah who sacrificed. These people sacrificed their own children. They burned their children in this valley called Gehenna. And since that time, the Jews consider that place to be cursed. Nobody built a house there. In one part of Gehenna, there was a place where they buried the dead. So there were some people that had been buried there. But it was not a place that you wanted to be. And they figured that the only thing that Gehenna was good for is to dump their trash there and burn it. That's what they did. You can read a whole lot about Gehenna, by the way. You can read for days on Gehenna and what that was and what different historians and different theologians think was going on there. But from what I've read, they dumped their trash in Gehenna. And the story goes that a lot of people said that there was always a fire going. This was a perpetual fire. They were always burning something in Gehenna. It was the place where children were sacrificed and burned. It was a place where the trash was dumped and it was burned. It was a place where the wild dogs lived, because they ate the trash and the scraps from the table that were thrown into Gehenna. It was a bad place. There's even one report that I read that they would take cadavers and they would throw them in Gehenna. So you can imagine what it smelled like, what it looked like, just what it was like to be in that place. Nobody wanted to be in Gehenna. And so Jesus talked about Hades, which is hell in the world to come, and he talked about a kind of hell that everyone knew about. It wasn't far from them. It was in this world. It was a place where you could go and see and touch. Gehenna, it was hell on earth. Here's some of the things that Jesus said about Gehenna. He said, if your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into Gehenna. Gehenna. The kind of hell that's here. The kind of hell that's with us. If your eye is causing you to sin, if your eye is causing you to sin, if you lust after your neighbor's stuff, if you lust after your neighbor's wife or husband, if your eye has drawn you into some kind of addiction to pornography or whatever, I'm going to tell you something. It affects your whole body. It doesn't just affect your eye, it affects your whole body. And it will drag you kicking and screaming into Gehenna. It is hell on earth. If your hand causes you to stumble, cut it off. It is better for you to enter life maimed than with two hands go into Gehenna, where the fire never goes out. He's talking about Gehenna, where the fire never goes out. If you are a thief, if you are violent, use your hands for violence. Whatever it is that your hand does, it causes you to stumble, he is saying, that will lead your whole body to Gehenna. He says this, and if your foot causes you to stumble, cut it off. It is better for you to enter life crippled than to have 2 feet and be thrown into Gehenna. Hell on earth. One more. The tongue. This is James, Jesus' brother. The tongue also is a fire, a world of evil among the parts of the body. It corrupts the whole body, sets the whole course of one's life on fire, and is itself set on fire by Gehenna. You know what he's saying here? If one part of your body or another, one sin or another, one temptation or another has pulled you into hell on earth, I can guarantee you one thing, it's going to come right out of your mouth. If you know somebody who is spewing venom, if you know someone who it just flows out of them like a river, I guarantee you one thing, they are in Gehenna. Some way or another, they are in Gehenna. This is what Jesus wanted us to know. And this is what Celebrate Recovery is all about. Celebrate Recovery is about helping people who are in hell on earth. That's what it's about. That's why it's coming to the net starting tonight. We're having a meeting tonight for all those who would like to volunteer. Let me just tell you, I'm going to be there tonight. I'm going through the training, and I don't want to pass the person on the street, and be okay with that. I don't want that to be a part of my heart. I want to feel what Jesus feels for those people. And I want us to feel that for each other. If God has not called you to do something else, if you're searching for something, I would invite you to come tonight and just find out about that and find out about what Celebrate Recovery can do. I want you to welcome with me, I want you to welcome Kurt and Tracy Lindsley up. They are the leaders of our Celebrate Recovery program. Let's give them a hand. Come on.
Good morning, everyone. I am going to tell you a short story of why Celebrate Recovery has been so important to me. I'm excited that God has opened the door here for the ministry of Celebrate Recovery because it's meant so much to me. You see, 9 years and 4 months ago, I was at my lowest low in my life. I found myself in a place that I never thought I would be in, and I was totally lost and broken. I lost everything that meant anything to me. Tonight at the informational meeting, I will tell you the longer version of my testimony. For now, I will start with the fact that both my mother and biological father struggled with alcohol and drugs. Almost everyone on my mom's side of the family struggled with that as well. As an adult, I was determined to break that generational bondage of alcohol and drug dependence. In 2004, did I just turn this off? Still hear me? Okay. In 2004, I had to have neck surgery due to spinal cord surgery on the back of my neck, 5 weeks later on the front of my neck. Although it relieved my cord compression, I continued to have chronic neck and shoulder pain. Over about a 5-year period, I became increasingly dependent on prescription pain medicine, and it spun out of control. At the time, there was major life stresses that occurred in a very short period of time. My daughter was diagnosed with MS while she was in college and I was in graduate school. 4 months later, she had a major GI bleed that ended up being caused by Crohn's disease. Meanwhile, my son was in active addiction, in and out of jail, and then went to prison for almost a year. He had a daughter that I absolutely adored, and her mother severed our relationship once she married someone else. My son was a terrible father, but I was and am an extraordinary Grammy and didn't deserve to have her ripped from my life. And to top it off, I found myself in yet another failing relationship. While I was experiencing real physical pain, I was experiencing even greater emotional pain. Without realizing it, I was numbing my emotional pain. I ended up losing my job that I worked over 9 years to obtain, as well as my marriage, my home, my car, my belongings. But most of all, I lost my identity. My identity was in my job, what I did, not who I was. I went to rehab for 3 months and then lived with my sister. I went from having a beautiful home to just a room with a twin bed and some plastic drawers. I was served divorce papers in the parking lot of Celebrate Recovery. My husband even towed my car away at the parking lot of Celebrate Recovery. I had to depend on my family to take me to other required 12-step meetings. My brother ended up driving a car to me from San Antonio. It didn't have air conditioning or power windows, but it got me where I needed to go. It took me 3 years to get back to my profession. The one thing that was constant and real was Celebrate Recovery. In the midst of the worst time of my life, Celebrate Recovery was my rock. I went to the altar for prayer every single time for months. God met me there and he picked me up, and like the gentleman he is, he wooed me to him and taught me to trust him. He not only showed me that my true identity was the daughter of the King, he also revealed my spiritual gifts and talents. He gave me to use for his kingdom. I immersed myself in ministry, and as I grew stronger, found that I loved ministering to the broken. I get such great joy out of shepherding other women. I encourage you all to come tonight and find out more about this ministry and how you can be involved. Thanks for letting me share.
Hi, everyone. My name's Kurt. I am not going to share my testimony, but I did want to share this. In 1980, I made the decision to follow Christ as my Lord and Savior. And I'm sure a lot of you can probably relate to this, the longer that I've been a follower of Christ, the more I recognize how much I fall short of reaching his standard. You think of what Paul wrote in Romans chapter 7, where he talks about the things I know I should do, I don't do, and the things I know I shouldn't do, I do. And that's just a natural part of life, part of the struggle that we deal with. A lot of people get involved in Celebrate Recovery, like Rob was sharing today, and it's a great ministry to help hurting people, because all of us have hurts, habits, hang-ups, things in our lives that we're dealing with and going through. It's a great way to really make a difference. But here's the thing I wanted to share with you. All of us have issues in our life. Every single one of us has been hurt. Every single one of us has issues with sin, some things that maybe we've been dealing with for years and years. And that's part of what this life is about. We're never going to be perfect in this life, but as followers of Jesus, our mission is not to stand still, but to follow him as he leads and to grow and to change. And I know that's the desire of my heart. I'm sure that is for all of you to want to follow Jesus. So the one thing I want to share with you about Celebrate Recovery, it is for so much more than for people that are dealing with addiction issues. It's really for anyone and everyone that has any hurt in their life, maybe an unresolved issue that they may have experienced as a child or an adult. If they have any kind of an issue in their life that maybe they're kind of stuck with this sin that keeps cropping up over and over again. Maybe it's something that it recurs frequently. Maybe it's something that's happened over the years. Celebrate Recovery and going through that process really allows us to identify areas in our life where we're hurting, where we need God's help, to confess those areas, to talk to God about them and identify, and to really invite the Holy Spirit to come into our lives and help us find healing. The stories of life change who celebrate recovery are just incredible. Millions of people have been helped by this ministry. My wife and I are examples of that ourselves. And we would love to just invite you to come tonight and learn more about what Celebrate Recovery is all about. And I do want to encourage you to be praying for this ministry, because it's really our hope that God will use this to be a blessing. We hope that people will become part of God's family as they turn to God and find the hope and encouragement that they need in dealing with the stuff that they're going through in life. So thank you very much, and thanks for the opportunity to let me share as well.
Well, thank y'all so much. I can't tell you how excited I am about Celebrate Recovery. When I first met Tracy and Kurt, I saw two people who have it's just like God, He sent two people. Not only are they great leaders, we've seen that over the past few weeks, y'all. Lene and I have talked about what great leaders you are. But you have the heart of Jesus. They want to see people helped. And I just love that. I'm so excited when I think about, and listen, I don't know, how many of you have ever been to a Celebrate Recovery meeting? How many? Oh, come on. I knew there was some more that have been. Okay. If you ever go to one of those meetings, you'll understand. It won't take you long to understand. But this is, it's when you see someone whose life has been totally transformed, someone who's been delivered, someone who's been set free, you see that. And you see the excitement, the gratitude that they have to the people who have helped them, and to God Himself for providing those people and providing that power, and who loves them with unconditional love. And when you see that, you look at that and you say, man, this is worth it. It's worth it. And so I want to encourage you. We have people who have contacted us on social media. Corresponded with one lady this week who was actually featured on either CBN or the 700 Club or something. They did a story on her, and she lives right here, right close by. And she said she would be here tonight. And she said that God had delivered her in her jail cell, and that she never, after that, she never took another drink or no more drugs. And she was a prostitute on this street out here. And she said, I'm sorry, she said, I was a little skeptical of your church whenever I first heard about it because I thought it was in such a bad area. She said, I used to walk these streets right around here as a prostitute. And she said, I wondered how that would work, having a church here. She said, but now, she said, I'm so glad that you are here. She said, you're in the right place. She said, the light is shining in darkness. And she said, when I saw this Celebrate Recovery, she said, I just wanted to come and check it out. And so I'm just excited. And let me tell you something. This church has been on social media for the past little over a year and a half. And we have been diligently putting ads out there week after week after week after week after week, videos, everything we can do to let people in this town know who we are and where we are. And we have 1,500, almost 1,600 followers on our Facebook page. That's a year and a half. How long has your page been up?
Maybe about
3 or 4 weeks. They put up a Facebook page for Celebrate Recovery at the Net. 800 followers in 3 or 4 weeks. I wish that I could have done that on our Facebook page. This is the kind of support that Celebrate Recovery has. People, and when it is a life-changing thing. And I just want you to be aware. I want you to be aware. I want you to honestly pray. And I'm going to pray in just a second. I want you to honestly pray and ask, God, is this something that you want me to just at least take a look at? Just at least consider. Let's pray.